Well, today the House is set to begin debate on the long-stalled $70 billion ICE and Border Patrol funding package. The Senate passing it last week following an 18-hour vote-a-rama featuring dozens of amendment votes. Multiple efforts to eliminate the Department of Justice's anti-weaponization fund failing. House Republicans reportedly eager to pass the package quickly as they shift their focus to a third reconciliation bill, a follow-up to last summer's One Big Beautiful Bill. I want to bring in Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer. Senator, good morning to you. I want to get your thoughts on what is now about to take place on the House side. Is this going to get to the president's desk this week?
Well, I certainly hope so, Cheryl. It's good to be with you this morning. What we've seen in the Senate, of course, is total obstruction by the Democrats. They wouldn't fund ICE. They wouldn't fund our Border Patrol. These are law enforcement agencies that keep this country safe, that keep citizens of the United States safe. We finally got it done by coming together through reconciliation, Republicans only, stepping forward to do the job we're supposed to do. Now it's up to the House. I hope they don't face that same obstruction that we're seeing here in the Senate.
Well, and having to use reconciliation to actually fund these agencies is certainly a shame. That's something Maria has talked a lot about, Senator. But she had Senator Rand Paul on the program last week, and she asked him about a fall reconciliation package, the possibility of another one coming down the pike. Of course, you got the midterms this year. Listen to what Senator Paul told Maria last week.
Is there an appetite for another reconciliation package before the midterms, or is there no time for that?
To me, it would matter what's in that package. If you want to cut taxes, I'm all for that. If you want to increase spending and increase the debt, I'm not for that. So what I've been hearing is a mixture of maybe a tax cut here, but a lot of spending on the military. And I think no matter whether the spending is, obviously military spending is better than some other spending, but at the same time, spending is spending, and we can't incur more debt.
Senator, you are on Armed Services. Your reaction to what he told her?
Well, I'm also on Appropriations Committee, so I want to see what Republicans have done in the past. Under Senator Thune's leadership, we were able to pass 11 out of the 12 appropriations bills last year. We didn't get Homeland passed, but we had the rest passed. That's a good thing. It keeps the process transparent. There's accountability. People get to see what we vote for and what we prioritize. I support President Trump's call, though, for more spending on military. We have seen in past administrations our country being weakened because the military is not able to meet the threats that are out there. I go through a number of classified briefings every single week, and we understand the threats on armed services, so hopefully we're going to have a very strong markup this week of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, and then I hope we can also do our markups, be able to have those discussions and appropriations, fund what our military need, our all-volunteer military. We want to make sure they have the resources necessary in order to carry out their missions. So I do tend to support, obviously, the appropriations process. But if it's going to take reconciliation to get Democrats to wake up and start working with us to protect this country, then I will support reconciliation in the future in order to get it done.
Even in the year ahead of the midterms? The calendar may not be your friend is the reason I asked that question. Our main duty here, our main responsibility as a federal government is to provide for the common defense. It is to protect this country. I chair the subcommittee on strategic forces on armed services, and we have the responsibility of oversight for missile defense, which is Golden Dome now. We have the responsibility for modernization of our nuclear triad, which is the bedrock of our defense here in this country. And we look at space as a warfighting domain. Every administration, every president, every Secretary of Defense has always said this is the priority. Those three things that I just mentioned, they are the priority for this country. That's our job. It's in the Constitution. Let's do our job.
Senator, the Senate has had a very busy job, especially over the last week with this vote-a-rama. So the Senate blocked an extension of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. That was a 47-52 procedural vote ahead of the program expiring this week. But a major point of contention was President Trump's appointment of Federal Housing Director Bill Pulte as acting director of national intelligence. Senate Democrats urging GOP leaders pressure the president into withdrawing that choice, threatening to tank reauthorizing FISA if the White House refuses. Democrats are arguing that Pulte does not have national security experience. President Trump says his work leading Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is going to overlap with these new responsibilities. Senator, where do you stand on this, especially after watching that vote happen among you and your colleagues last week?
Well, it's my understanding this is just a temporary fill-in. I want to make sure that this country is protected. I was extremely disappointed when we saw that vote. I left at 5 o'clock in the morning after the vote-a-rama. I voted for the extension on FISA to be able to have that extended 3 years, and then I get home here in Washington before flying to Nebraska and finding out it didn't pass. That puts our country at danger. That is a tool, a necessary tool. Again, that's been supported in a bipartisan manner. And to have it become political like this over an appointment that the president has said is a temporary one, that's just not responsible governing, I believe. You know, we need to know the threats that are out there, and I'm just hopeful we can get it done now and not see something horrible take place here in the country because we weren't able to monitor the terrorists.